What's going on, guys? My name is Richard. Welcome back to the Stock Market Outlook video. We'll talk about the price action of the leading stocks in the market, the market indexes, my previous watch list, as well as talk about some sentiment indicators, including my surveys on Twitter, the put-call ratio, the Bulls vs. Bears poll, and finish off the video by talking about the IBD Big Picture article and also the GMI Signal. And then finally, we'll put all those different sources of information together and determine what the current trend of the market is. So diving right in, let's start with the potential true market leaders, and we'll talk about each of their charts. And overall, if you look at this week, you can see a lot of them are hitting both price and relative strength new highs. That's a great sign for the overall market. And you do have a few down here that are now below the 21 EMA, but not too many, which once again is a good sign given the pullback that we had this past week. So first things first, we've got XP, and overall this broke out of a nice cup shape here. You can see it moved up well from this 3-bar break off the bottom. And you've also got the breakout from the inside day down there as well. So that looks strong, especially with the volume coming in. We've also got Roku, which is trending above all those key moving averages, the 10-day moving average, the 21 EMA, and the 50 SMA with relative strength also right at all-time highs. PLTR, you can see pulled back last week, but overall is forming some nice higher lows. You can see that it didn't even reach the 21 EMA and is trying to hold that 10-day moving average and is right near all-time highs. Snap, once again, is trending beautifully above all those key moving averages into new all-time highs with the relative strength confirming as well. You can see nice volume coming in on the Thursday and Friday. And this is one thing to mention. A lot of these potential true market leaders had great reversal action on Thursday after a sell-off on Wednesday, which I take as a positive sign, a sign that there is a bid under these leading names. So moving on, we've got Upwork, which also moved up overall this week after a sell-off on Wednesday, a downside reversal, but it's holding the 21 EMA and is now back above the 10-day moving average right near all-time highs. ETHE, you can see, also moved up last week into new all-time highs with relative strength confirming, and I did buy this on this Monday. And if you do want to see information about my buys and sells, I posted that video yesterday, which you can find above right now. Next up, we've got Twilio, which had nice action last week, breaking above this level and also the high of this cup shape, which was contained by the 50 SMA. So this looks very strong, great volume coming in, relative strength not quite at all-time highs, but it's getting there. And overall, it looks very, very good. You can see the recent gap up here was filled, but overall, it's been in a very strong uptrend throughout 2020. EMPH is trending above all those key moving averages and had a nice little short-term breakout above these highs here on Friday on volume. You can see a 3-bar break as well as a teal dot coming in on that day, and it looks like it should challenge these all-time highs very, very soon. Cloudflare, once again, trending above all those key moving averages. Great reversal action on Thursday, moving above the high of this day here, and just a normal inside day consolidation on Friday with nice closing range as well. Fetch continues to trend above that 10-day moving average. A break below that would be a change in character, but at some point this does have to base and will likely pull back to the 21 EMA. CrowdStrike moving up well since this earnings gap up on huge volume. You can see nice reversal action once again on Thursday, and then a inside day on Friday. Pinterest trending above that 21 EMA. You can see it found support there on the Thursday, and I would expect this to trend higher in the near future. Futu, you can see pulled back after there was an announcement that shares were being bought on this Thursday, and it didn't have a good close here, and actually sold my position on this day because of that. But it's doing nothing wrong. It's holding that 21 EMA, and I would expect it to find support there and potentially move up once again in the near future. SQ, you can see, is right at all-time highs, both in terms of price and relative strength. It did have some reversal bars on Wednesday and Thursday, but so far is holding those key moving averages. Melly, once again, trending above all those key moving averages. Nice reversal action on this Thursday. You can see the reversal bar or the reversal indicator popping up here. So far, it looks very, very strong. Peloton, it was announced on Friday after the close that it's going to be included in the NASDAQ 100, so it could affect things next week, but overall it's holding that 50-day SMA, although it's been very frustrating to trade very recently. TTD is trending above all those key moving averages, looks great. Apps is right near all-time highs, tightening up a little bit on the right-hand side once again, and I would expect to challenge kind of this pivot and also these highs relatively soon, and this potentially will be on my watch list for an add because I already do have a position. Zscaler, after this huge gap up on volume, has been pretty much going sideways. If we go to a weekly chart, it was a tight week, which is a very good sign. So potentially a short stroke or forming a 3 weeks tight if we get another week here. So it looks very, very strong. And I'll be looking to add if it takes out these highs right here. Tesla, you can see consolidated a little bit, but had an excellent reversal, upside reversal on the Thursday on good volume, and then a nice inside day on Friday above the 21 EMA. Looks very, very strong. CELH right near all-time highs above those key moving averages. Fiverr above that 21 EMA. Nice reversal bar on Thursday. NEO, you can see, is pulling back to the 50 SMA potentially. But overall, I think it will form a nice constructive base and will present new buying opportunities. SC, you can see, pulled back after this downside reversal on Wednesday and didn't quite have as strong a reaction as a lot of the leading growth names on this Thursday. And then it pulled back once again on this Friday. So a little bit frustrating. I don't have a position, but for those holders, you would expect it to find support potentially at the breakout level at about 188, where it pretty much closed on this Friday, and the 21 EMA. AMD, which I do own shares of, you can see moved up nicely from the 50 SMA here, but now is pulling back right at all-time highs, forming a little bit of a handle here. And in my view, this is very constructive, and I would expect it to challenge these all-time highs relatively soon. GRWG, once again, pulling back to the 21 EMA, looks pretty good. Decent down volume coming in on this Wednesday, but you can see it was contained within the action of the previous bar. And so far, this looks like subtle accumulation from me. Corsair, you can see, is still pulling back from this high right here, and you can see it broke through the 21 EMA, so I would expect it to potentially go all the way down to the 50 SMA. And finally, we've got RH, which had a gap down on earnings, but a decent close here, and then an inside day on Friday, so a little bit of mixed action here. But overall, this is one I'll be watching, but I think it needs a little bit more time to form a nice low-risk, high-reward entry point. So that is the action of the true market leaders. Overall, you've got some fresh breakouts into all-time highs, both in terms of price and relative strength, and overall, these look very, very strong. And if you have any suggestions on stocks I should add to this list, please let me know down below in the comment section. And now let's talk about the price action of the market indexes. So starting with the QQQ on a daily time frame, let's go through the week. So overall, a nice move up on Monday on decent volume, then continued action on this Tuesday. You can see we actually moved all the way down below this low, but recovered and closed very strongly. But then on Wednesday, we had a huge move down, and this was a distribution day on both the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. So after that day, you can see we actually gapped down, and it looked like we were going to go through the 21 EMA, but we found support there, had a nice close, and then a nice inside day on Friday. So the expectation from this bar right here, because of the nice closing range, is that we go sideways or higher, or potentially if we break below this low, that'll kind of be a changing character because of this nice action. So keep that in mind. That could mean that we need a little bit more time to consolidate before another move up. So looking at a weekly chart, let's take a look at the stage analysis, and let me hide these drawings. Overall, you can see a downside reversal bar on the week, but you can see a nice close off the lows overall. So the expectation from this bar is sideways, mostly sideways, but a little bit down actually, but we are in a stage 2 uptrend at this time. And moving on to the SPY, you can see we had a move up, then a downside reversal, but a nice close off the lows for the week. And overall, we're down 0.96% with a weekly closing range of 39%. And the expectation from this bar is sideways or lower, although we are in a stage 2 uptrend. And moving on, we've got the IWM, the Russell 2000. It had a nice week, up 1.12%, and overall a weekly closing range of 56.2%. So the expectation is sideways or higher, and we are in a stage 2 uptrend at this time. And right now, small caps are doing very, very well relative to the other indexes. And just really quick, the overall gain this week was actually a loss of 1.2% for the QQQ and a weekly closing range of 35.8%. Moving on, we've got GBTC, which shows what Bitcoin is doing. Overall, it was down 11.24% with a weekly closing range of 27.4%, and the expectation from this bar is sideways or down, although we are in a stage 2 uptrend. And looking at Ethereum, you can see a downside reversal bar here, down 4.88%, and the expectation is sideways or down. And overall, we aren't quite in the clear stage 2 because the 10-week isn't above the 30-week, but this is the signs of a start of an uptrend. Next up, we've got the Dow Jones, and overall, we had pretty tight action here, down 0.55% overall, with a nice week closing range of 45.7% relatively. And overall, the expectation from this bar is sideways or higher. And moving on, we've got growth stocks, the FFTY, the Innovator IB50 ETF. Overall, it was pretty much flat this week, and it had a nice week closing range of 56.7% given the pullback, and we are in a stage 2 uptrend. Moving on, we've got gold, which you can see had an attempted move up here above the 30-week, but it was rejected, and overall had a pretty poor weekly closing range of 26.7%. And the expectation from this bar is sideways or lower, and we are not in a stage 2 uptrend. Next up, we've got the VIX, and overall on the week, it was up 12.12% with a weekly closing range of 63.7%. And at this point, it is below those key moving averages, but I would like to see it move back below these lows here. And lastly, we've got the XLF, the financials. Overall, a nice inside week, down 1.79% with a weekly closing range of 31.9%. And the expectation from this bar is sideways or lower. And at this point, we are in a stage 2 uptrend after this nice gap up. So that is a run through of the market indexes. So far, decent consolidation weeks from the major indexes, and the expectation is either sideways or lower, although on the daily charts, the expectation for at least the QQQ is higher after these nice closing ranges and reversals. So moving on, let's talk about my watch list, and overall, if we sort by weekly change, you can see nice action. Zillow was the best performer, and I bought this on this Monday. Upwork as well had a nice week, up 9.76%. DQ up 9%, Etsy up 9% as well. And we did have some losers down here. Big C was the worst. It got rejected at this pivot. And Corsair as well didn't hold that key moving average of the 21 EMA. So overall, going through their charts quickly, you've got Zillow with a nice breakout from the 21 EMA. Great volume coming in. A nice relative strength on Wednesday and Thursday to stay green here. And overall, nice closing range on the week at 95.6%. Upwork as well had a decent week. You can see it was up 9.76% and a nice move off the 21 EMA off the green dot setup on Monday. DQ, you can see had a nice reversal on this Monday here, which is where I ideally would have bought it. Overall, after that, a nice move up here, but it's still experiencing a lot of choppiness when it gets to this levels. You can see that from these large move downs off the highs. Etsy, a nice move up from the teal dot setup on Monday. IIPR had a break of the downward trend line and a nice move up overall. Peloton, you can see, is still kind of fighting with this 50-day SMA. Halo, a decent move up, although a downside reversal on Wednesday. But on Thursday and Friday, you can see nice action here, pretty much ending the week where it started. AMRC, you can see, had a pullback to the 50 SMA, but nice action off that moving average. Frog couldn't take out this pivot here. You can see it failed that breakout, has now consolidated and pulled back to the 21 EMA, forming some inside days here, which is constructive. Shopify, you can see, didn't kind of break through this pivot here. And on Wednesday, you had a big move down 5.8% back to the 50 SMA where it found support. Coupa Software, after its earnings, you can see had a pretty wild day, overall down 2.92%, but it is finding support at the 50 SMA. NVIDIA, you can see, broke that key moving average and doesn't look too great, to be honest, and is just finding support at this low here, but you can see that the down volume is much higher than these two up days right here. Corsair, as I said, moved through that 21 EMA, and Big C failed that breakout. So overall, a pretty good week for my watch list. You had some nice moves from Zillow, Upwork, DQ, and Etsy. And overall, 8 out of the 14 stocks were green on the week. So moving on, let's talk about sentiment and start with my sentiment surveys. And overall, we saw a big drop this week, which is very promising, from 57.4% bullish to now only 50.3% bullish, which is a good sign. And moving on to the put call ratio, you can see we did have a move up here, but we're pretty much still trending at this very low range around 0.5. Overall, looking at the bulls versus bears, you can see we had not much of a dip at all and we're still very elevated above all these highs going back to 2018. Moving on to the IBD Big Picture article, the title is NASDAQ S&P 500 cut losses as Disney boosts Dow, Chipotle, XP World near buy zones. So they talk about how the NASDAQ and S&P 500 ended the week slightly down, but closed near the session highs, which is a positive. They talk about the strong action from Disney, which announced a whole bunch of new basically content that they're going to put out there. And you've got the small cap Russell 2000 lost 0.6%, while the leading growth stocks were flat, as shown by the IBD 50. They discuss how the NASDAQ recovered from the sharp drop, and overall, we did add one distribution day to both the NASDAQ and S&P 500 on Wednesday. Still, they talk about how it is a low distribution day count, and there are a ton of new breakouts, which is a promising sign of an uptrend. Moving on, they talk about some stocks to watch, Chipotle, XP World, and overall their view is a confirmed uptrend, and we now have 4 distribution days on the S&P 500 and 2 on the NASDAQ. And moving on to the GMI Signal, we are still green since November 5th, and taking everything into account, my current view is we are in a confirmed uptrend, and I'll continue to manage my current positions and look to add to those or add new positions if there is a good low risk, high reward entry point. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please go ahead and leave a like down below and subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll see you guys in future videos.